Hello, writers, and welcome to the Author Burnout Coach. Together, we will dismantle the burnout culture in book publishing and reclaim our love of stories. I am your host, Isabel Sterling, and this is episode 7. Hello, friends. Today is a very exciting day for a few reasons. First, if you are listening to this on release day, it is 2/22/2022, which is just fun to say. Kind of love that for us. And second, I'm really excited about today's topic. I'm excited about all things, banishing burnout. But today's topic I believe in so strongly, and it's also something I'm actively going through right now, which I just think is fun, and I'm going to have a little personal example to share at the end. So today we are going to talk about writing that never makes it into a finished book. All of the books that you query and don't get an agent, all of the books that never sell on submission, and the drafts that you throw away in pursuit of the heart of your story. Since the spoiler is in the episode title, I will go ahead and give it here too. None of that writing is wasted. Not a single word, ever. Or rather, it doesn't have to be a waste. It isn't inherently wasted or beneficial. It's actually completely neutral until your human brain gets involved. So the problem is, without, your conscious decision to go in a specific direction, your brain by default is going to spiral into doom, despair, and defeat. So it typically sounds something like this. What if I spend all this time writing and it never goes anywhere? What if I spend a year on this book and all the agents just reject it? I wish I could have figured this book out the first time instead of writing 3 drafts that I had to throw away. So that last one, if you've followed me for any length of time, you probably know that this actually happened to me with This Coven Won't Break, which is the sequel to my debut. I literally wrote 3 complete versions of that novel, over 200,000 words across the 3 of them, that all went straight into the trash. Like, goodbye, delete, don't even look at. The 4th draft was finally solid enough to actually use as a foundation for revision. And oh damn, did we have to revise it a ton. So you may have a similar experience. Either you've already had it and it's in your past, or if you haven't, I can pretty much guarantee it'll happen eventually in your future. But none of that time that I spent writing 200,000 words trying to find the right story was ever wasted. It's not wasted unless we decide to waste it ourselves. And plus, this whole concept of wasted time is built on a lie. If you believe that writing must produce a certain outcome, like signing with an agent or getting a book deal or making money, you create a very narrow view of success. So when it becomes this binary of did I or didn't I, you lose sight of all the other ways that writing does matter, like the joy that it creates, the fun. So when you've narrowed your view of success, you miss out on the incredible power of believing in yourself hard enough to write an entire fucking novel. Take a second and let that sink in. Think of how few people devote that amount of time to their dreams. Like, how amazing that you chose to use your precious time and you decided that your dream was worth that investment of time and you completed an entire book. That shit is fucking badass. So few people do that. Now, there's nothing wrong with setting external goals. I actually personally love them when they are done in a way that also honors the internal goals. I love being a published author. I love having an agent who really resonates with my work. It was truly a blessing that I was able to get a large royalty check for These Witches Don't Burn. Having that money allowed me the freedom to take parental leave with my young foster son without being stressed about bills the whole time. I love that the on-signing portion of my advance for The Coldest Touch, having that allowed me to actually have money for a down payment on a house in 2020. That shit never would have happened without writing. And those tangible things do really matter, but they're not the only thing that matters. And if you only focus on those pieces, it's so much harder to get there. If end results were the only thing that mattered, there's no way I would have persisted through years and years of rejection that I had to go through to get to this point in my career, which is still just the beginning of my career in so many ways. So, there are 2 concepts I want to share with you to help you grow your belief that none of your writing time is ever wasted and none of your sort of the words you put down is wasted. So we're going to look at it both from a time perspective and also a story perspective. And we'll start with the time because I think a lot of times that comes up first for writers. I want to start by asking you, how much do you value having fun just for the sake of having fun? How much do you value spending time on creative pursuits with no pressure about a specific outcome? Do you value play and rest as much as you value work? Could you, if you practice thinking about it that way? There are moments when we're writing when everything just sort of clicks into place. That moment when just like the perfect solution that like fills your plot hole and also solves like a world building issue and also solves like a character issue, when that just kind of like pops up and it like basically one little thing fixes everything. I love that shit. To me, those moments are 100% worth the time I invest into writing, no matter what happens next, even if I end up throwing that particular draft away. I personally feel the most alive and powerful when I can figure out those missing pieces of a story and everything sort of falls into place. It is just stunning. But if I only focused on sales, that magic starts to dim and it's harder to tap into that sort of lightness and joy and love of writing. So the next time that you find yourself thinking that all this writing is a waste of time, ask yourself what you allow yourself to value. Are you only letting yourself value the external results of finishing a book or getting a certain size advance or signing with an agent? It is 100% okay to want those things. I want them. I have big goals for myself, but I can want those and value doing it simply because it's fun in the moment and because it makes my heart sing. Now, it's okay if you can't sort of make that leap all at once. Just staying open and curious about what would it be like if I could genuinely love the process as much as the sort of result. What would that be like? What would my life be like if writing was fun again? So you just be open and curious about what that could look like. Know that it's okay to have both. You can want big external success and you can love the process. They do not have to be mutually exclusive, friends. Love and money can go together, something that I believe strongly, and I really think the love helps us persist long enough to get to the sort of external stuff. Okay, so that kind of piece covers the whole like wasting time part of writing. And if that's something you struggle with, I really want you to like re-listen to this a few times and really get curious about like what would it be like if like an hour spent daydreaming about your story was just as valuable as an hour at your day job. So now we're going to shift to the story piece. And for this one, I have a personal story for you because I am actively going through this right now. I have been working on my next book since March of 2021. So at the time of recording, that is just shy of a year ago. And I have not finished a single first draft. Now, this is super unusual for me. I'm typically a pretty fast writer. I can typically do a first draft in about 2 to 3 months because the majority of the work for me is in revision. That is where I really get the most aha moments, where I get the like those sort of magical, like, oh my gosh, if I do this, all these things fall into place. That for me is really where the magic of writing lives. So I typically just try to get through the first draft so I can shift to revision. Now, after my experience with This Coven Won't Break and the 200,000 words I had to throw away, I have developed the skill of being able to tell if a story is not working so that I can pull the plug with confidence and just toss what I have and start over without needing to write the entire thing. I did not always have that. If you are new to writing, I really recommend getting used to finishing things. If you've never finished a book, do not use this as an excuse to continue to not finish. Like when you're starting out, you have to finish the first book. That is like step one. You have to get to the end. But I'm like 10 books in now, so I've developed some additional skills. So over this past year, I have had lots of different partial drafts, and each time I've sort of tossed what I had, I've taken the book in a slightly different direction. And the book has always been about a girl who can see ghosts, and she has to help a very cute ghost solve her own murder. And each time I've started over, I've kept that core of what the story is what I pitched to my publisher, and I've approached it from a slightly different angle. Now, I didn't really keep track of all of the drafts and things. I didn't expect to be talking about it a year later on this podcast, but I did go through my emails and pull a basic timeline for you because I do think it's helpful to look at. So I started the initial sort of development and brainstorming in March of 2021, sort of right after I had finished the first sort of big edit on The Coldest Touch. And then by June, a few months later, I had Act 1 done. I had about 17,000 words or 65 pages, which I sent to my agent at the time for feedback. And then from her notes, I decided to toss what I had at the time and start over. I wanted to shift the voice. I wanted to kind of take things from a slightly different angle. So then I got back to drafting, and then by September, I had a new Act 1. And this time it was a little bit shorter. It was like 12,000 words, about 50 pages, but it felt a lot stronger than what I had before. I had a much better kind of grounding in the character, so I kept going. And I got to the midpoint of what I kind of had planned for my plot, and I realized I had definitely not enough for a whole novel. It was only about 120 pages, 30,000 words, and I was very quickly running out of story. And I also was realizing that I didn't really know, there's some decisions I had been avoiding, let's say. Now, there were also bits that I totally loved. The opening line was super fun. It's so fun. I'm actually going to share it with you because I think it is hilarious. So the opening line to this version was, "It's hard to care about physics homework when a very cute, very dead girl walks into the coffee shop." I thought that was a very fun opening for a queer YA novel about a girl who sees ghosts. How fun. So even though I enjoyed lots of things about this book that I was working on, I could just tell that it wasn't quite right. And like we talked about last time, I had developed enough trust in myself that I was able to say, okay, I can tell something's wrong. Let me step back for a few days and think about it. And what I eventually realized is that I had been creating this story based on what I wanted to avoid instead of embracing the things that I wanted to create. So when I realized that, and I realized sort of what I was hiding from with the story and what I was afraid to address, I was like, okay, I need to start all over again. I had to redo, honestly, I think I tossed literally every character I had created and then started over, but still centering this girl who sees ghosts and has to help a ghost solve her murder. So then once I got all that back together, I started writing. And then by December, I had a new first act again. This one was about 10,000 words and 40 pages. And I kind of knew it was very sort of rough first draft. So then I read through that. It was a lot better, so much better. I really felt like I was finally telling the story I wanted to tell instead of the story that was left by avoiding the things I was afraid of. But the character motivations were still a little too thin to propel an entire novel. So I read through the draft, developed some more backstory, revamped sort of the plot. Again, the plot is the same in terms of solving the murder, but I realized that I had sort of opened the novel not quite right. What I did next, I personally consider part of revision, although I guess you could technically consider it a fourth attempt to write the first draft because out of the 9 to 10 scenes that I had written, I only kept 2. All the rest were brand new. And this time it was about 50 pages, 15,000 words, and it's currently at the time of recording with my new agent. So I don't know yet if this will be a version that I do sort of get the green light and I draft to the end. It feels that way for right now. Either way, I am proud as hell because this version is so much more right than everything that came before. Now, I could look back at this past year and be upset or demoralized that I threw away about 60,000 words. Basically an entire novel worth of words that are never going to see the light of day. I could be upset by that, but I am not at all because I truly believe that without all of those earlier attempts, I couldn't have found this version of the story. They weren't a waste of time. They weren't a waste of words. They actually sort of laid the, what are those fancy roads with the bricks? I don't know. I don't know, a fancy brick road, a cobblestone little road. They paved the way for the story that I have now. So why would I choose to be upset by those previous attempts when they brought me a story that I love? Why would I belittle their value and importance just because they won't ever be finished or bound into a hardcover and like sat on my shelf? Those drafts, I will also say, happened over the course of a year that was unlike any other for me. I became a foster mom for the first time, and I had to learn how to balance writing with caring for like small humans. And 10 years from now, like just imagine 10 years from now, there is a zero fucking chance that I'm going to look back at 2021 and think it was a waste. The year where I fostered 3 children, one of which I have now been the foster mother to for over 6 months. I love him to pieces. He is such a little sweetie, my nugget. There's no way I'm going to look back at that and see what I've created while becoming this new version of myself and think that I wasted my time. No way. I trust that I found the correct story. I trust and know that this new skill of writing while momming is going to serve me forever. Also, keep in mind, I had basically no childcare for the vast majority of that time. And I feel like a fucking superhero that I got any writing done, let alone 60,000 words that led me to the correct story. Like, come on. I don't know if you hear it in my voice, but there is a sense of pride and peace and fun and just abundance that I feel when I look at my writing this way, when I'm able to see the magic in what I do. And I want that for all of us. Like, imagine for a moment if you stopped believing that some of your writing was a waste. Imagine if you believed that every false start on a story was just paving the way to the best version of that novel. Imagine if you could value fun as much as productivity. Imagine if you were able to let go of the guilt you feel over like resting and taking a nap when you're tired. Imagine what that would do for the industry. And I want you to know that this is possible. I am living proof that this is possible. And it's not a big leap. We take one tiny little shift at a time. We wiggle out of those old beliefs. Now, you might not be able to do all this on your own, and that is okay. I honestly could not have done it either without all of the coaching that I've received along the way. My brain, I've said before, loves to tell me I'm not doing enough. It loves to tell me I'm not good enough. Having coaches point that out to me, I'm able to start to shift away and wiggle out of those beliefs. So I am here to help you love writing no matter what the hell is happening on the publishing side of things. So if you want help with this, I would love for you to visit my website, isabelsterling.com. Click on the 4 writers and you can learn all about my coaching services. And please do reach out if you have questions, whether email or Instagram or Twitter. I'm not on Twitter a lot, but mostly Instagram is where you can find me. I really want to help all of us love writing again. So until next time, happy writing.